But my top rated book on confidence is called The Super You. I'm sending it to you, physical book, free. Go to the link down there. You got it.
DreAllDay.com.
Congratulations for tuning into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of the go-getter energy, personal initiative to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Putting all this together, you get the mindset, the method, the podcast known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day. Welcome to the show. Today's topic: the means to the ends. We talk on this show about ends, right? We talk about goals. You want to set goals, have some things that you are going after, something that you wish to achieve in life. And today is about creating clear lines of delineation between the means and the ends. Because sometimes in life, and it's been said, I believe it was Friedrich Nietzsche, German philosopher, who said, often people start things as a means to an end, but by not even thinking about it or just by the law of inertia, they continue with the means as if it's the end. They didn't realize, listen, I started this thing in order to achieve this outcome, but then they just keep doing the thing even after they've achieved the outcome, or they just forget that there was even an outcome from the beginning. They just keep doing the thing, whatever that thing happens to be. There's this parable that was told, maybe you've heard it, of a guy who lived in like a small cottage with his wife, and he had a happy life, and he would go out and he would fish every single day. And there was this big businessman who was on vacation in that same town, and he saw this guy fishing. He said, "Man, you go out here and you fish every single day?" And the man from the cottage said, "Yes, I do." And the businessman said to him, "Well, man, you should go out and you should fish more and get a whole lot more fish and start selling the fish." And the cottage man said, "Why should I do that?" And the businessman started going on into this whole story, because if you sell the fish, then you can make more money, then you can hire more fishermen, and you can start your own business, and you can do this, and you can build a corporation, and you can have hundreds and thousands of employees, and then you would do all of that in the cottage. Every time the businessman told this guy from the small village in the cottage why he should make it bigger and bigger and expand and do all these things and make it into a big fishing business, the cottage guy would ask him every single time, "Well, why would I do that? Why would I do that? What is the purpose of doing these things?" And the businessman had an answer for everything. You would expand it, you would build this big company, you would incorporate, you had this large corporation, and you could sell it out for billions of dollars. And then when you get billions of dollars, you know what you can do? You can live in this small little village in a cottage with your wife and just have a nice, calm, comfortable life every single day. So basically what the parable is explaining, and I'm not saying that word for word, you can look that up somewhere, is the businessman was saying you could do all of these means just to achieve this end of having this happy, calm, quiet life. And the thing was, the irony of it was, the man from the little village, he already had that life. The thing that the businessman was saying, you could retire and just have this simple life, he already had it. So the businessman was saying, do all of these means things in order to achieve an end that had already been achieved. And a lot of us, we spend our whole lives doing what the businessman was talking about doing. Let's do this thing. Let's expand to this. Let's make this bigger. Let's do this. Let's incorporate. Let's get more employees. Let's build a bigger business. Let's do all of these things. And the purpose, at least when we start out, we're thinking we're going to get to the end. At least some of us are. But we spend our entire lives just doing the means over and over and over again. There was a Jay-Z song where he said, a song called Lost Ones from his album Kingdom Come. He said, "I guess we forgot what we came for." That the whole purpose of our business was to build it in order to get it to the position of selling it. All we wanted to do was make the money. We didn't get into the business in order to become famous. We didn't get into business for the shine. We didn't get in it for the followers or for the fame or for the attention. We did it so we could make money, put ourselves in a better financial position legally, and put our kids in a position where they could inherit businesses from us, and we could maybe create generational wealth for our families. That's the reason we started this company, Rockefeller. But it seemed like, and this is around the time when the Rockefeller company had broken up, the original company, it seemed like some of my business partners, Jay-Z is saying, they got so caught up in the fame. They got so caught up in the glow and the attention, the shine, that they forgot the reason we got into this was not to get attention and glow and shine. The reason we got in was to build businesses and build generational wealth for our kids. And I think they lost track of that. So now I got to get away from doing business with them because they forgot what the ends were. They got too caught up in the means. So that's what today's topic is. We're talking about making sure we have a clear line between the actions that we're taking every single day and the objectives that we're actually looking to achieve, and that we don't get caught on the treadmill or on the escalator. If you ever seen somebody trying to run up the down escalator or go down the up escalator, you don't want to get caught on the escalator, all right, trying to run up the down escalator, and you're using a lot of energy and it looks fun and a lot of people are paying attention to you, but what was the purpose? All right, is the purpose to get upstairs, or is the purpose just to stay on the escalator? And that's a question that you need to be asking yourself, and that's what today's topic is. Point number one. I thought of this topic because I recently saw an article, probably by the time you hear this, probably about 2 months ago, when I saw this article where Kylie Jenner, they were saying in Forbes that Kylie Jenner was going to become this rich kid, maybe the youngest person or quickest person to become a billionaire or something, they were saying, in terms of her worth because of this makeup line that she had built. And I looked at the Kardashian clan as I read the article, and as I'm reading it, they talked about the other sisters and how Kim had did this and Khloe had did this, and how her other sister was doing all these things and building businesses, a lot of them building businesses based on beauty and looks and fashion and makeup and things like that. And I realized that they had utilized the means, because I remember when the Kardashians first came out, when Kim Kardashian had the sex tape quote-unquote scandal that became a boom for her business, and then you had the Kardashians reality show, and then it segued into all these other things that they did, but they utilized the means. The means was, I remember when Kim Kardashian used to do selfies and there was the ass photos, and a lot of people would kind of have negative things to say about that, right? There was a lot of hate, there was a lot of negative press coming from a lot of people who said, well, this woman it was just started out with Kim, right? Then it branched out in everybody else. She's famous for doing nothing. She's famous for having sex on tape. She's a hoe. She's a whore. She's a slut. She just tried to show off her looks, or she got surgery. That's not her real ass, and her lips are fake, and she got all this work done, and the mom's not a real mom. She's throwing her kids out into the spotlight just to make money off of them. There was a lot of negative things being said about their family, but the means, whatever you want, however you felt about those means, the means were, okay, let's show off our bodies. Some people think there was work done, and let's show off our assets, our physical assets, and show everybody how good we look. Or at least as long as the public agrees that we look good. Those were the means, but the ends were to build a business. The ends were to do whatever it is they had to do to get to the ends of building businesses and creating generational wealth for their family, which it looks like that's what they're doing right now. Now, we don't know what the next generation after that is going to do. Only time will tell. But they've gone from, let's take the pictures, or let's show off the bodies and show off the faces and the selfies and the Instagram posts and all of that. I mean, they still do that, but they've segued that into actually building a real business. They took the means and made it into some ends, while everybody was maybe not even noticing that. But it's something that I thought about. I don't watch their show or follow any of these ladies online, but as I was reading the article, that's the thing that I started thinking about, and it led to me talking about this here on today's topic. They didn't stay within the means. All right, they didn't stay within where they begin. They didn't stay where they started. All those things that I just described, everyone knows that that's what they were doing when they first came out, but they didn't stay there. They leveraged that into a TV show, a makeup line, fitness products, etc., etc. Many of us, what we do is we start something as a means to get to some outcome, but before we know it, we're stuck doing the means with no strategy to reach the ends. Like, we just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And this is something that Jay-Z is another person I thought of as I was outlining what I wanted to talk about in this episode. Even back when he first started rapping, he would say, even in his interviews, he would say, I never wanted to become a rapper because it seemed like, just looking at these guys, because Jay-Z had a friend who was a rapper whose career hadn't gone too great. It seemed like these guys are rapping all the time. They're doing shows all the time. They're putting out all this music, but they're only making money for the companies. They're making money for everybody but themselves. And if my goal, and Jay-Z, this is Jay-Z thinking, if my goal is to create generational wealth for my family, rapping is not going to do it, because these guys are rapping and rapping and rapping, but they're not getting anywhere. They're not getting any further. They're not advancing. They're not making any progress, but they're always doing the work. They're doing the thing, and maybe they're even famous for rapping. But listen, who cares about being famous for rapping when the outcome is to make money? All right, there's a separation between the two. Maybe you can be famous and rap, but the purpose for him, at least for him, the end was to get the money. And something he said on his latest album, the one with his wife Beyonce, he said, we don't even do famous. It's not fame that I'm after. I don't care if I was famous or not. The outcome is to build something for my family. So when we're talking about these means and the ends, not staying where you started, remembering where the end is so you can use where you started in order to segue it to wherever it is that you want to get to. It means you start something to get to something else, but before we know it, again, we end up in that same spot, or we achieve the ends, and this is something else that happens to people. We achieve the ends, but we just keep going. Like the businessman I told you in that parable at the beginning of this episode, maybe he starts making all the money. Maybe he becomes a billionaire guy in the fish industry, right? But then what does he do? He wants to keep building it, make it bigger, get into another industry. What was the end? What was the outcome that you wanted to achieve? Sometimes we don't even know. Actually, oftentimes people don't even know. We start things not even knowing where we're going. What is it that we're going to achieve here? When do we know we're done? When is the finish line? Where is the finish line? How do we know that we've crossed it? And once we cross it, what do we do then? These are questions that many of us, I believe, never ask ourselves. Definitely don't ask ourselves before we start. And once we've started, we get so caught up in doing the things, whatever those things are, whatever those means are, going to the gym every day, working and running our business every day, showing up to our job every single day, just doing the thing, competing with this other person, trying to beat this person out, trying to achieve this next thing, this new shiny object that got presented to us that we never even think about. You know what are our means right now? What's the end that we're actually trying to achieve? We don't even realize that there's no end. The only end for most of us is when we just get too old or too tired or too not good enough at it anymore to keep doing it, and then we go do something else, then we go do something else, and then we die, then it's all over. What did we actually achieve? How do we advance ourselves? How is whoever comes after us in a better position than we were based on the things that we did, based on the time that we had, based on the energy that we put out? Can you answer that question? Or will you be able to answer that question? Why is that? Because we don't know. We don't think about it. We don't ask ourselves these questions. We don't ask ourselves the critical questions of where does this end? Where is this going? Why are we doing this? Point number 2, today's topic is the means to the ends, making sure there's a clear line between the two. Number 2, this is why goals, ladies and gentlemen, don't need to be just goals by themselves. See, every goal needs to be tied to a bigger goal. See, many people will have the goal to make some money, right? Or to accumulate some money. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make money because, listen, money makes the world go round, as they say, right? Money is what you need to pay for the device you're listening to this on. You need money to eat. You need money to have a place to stay. You need money to get from point A to point B. Money can help you take care of grandma, take care of yourself, do whatever it is you got to do. When you have the right amount of money, you can pretty much do whatever it is you want to do, right? And that's fine, but why do you want the money? You made the money, then what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do when you get to the next level? This is why you plan and strategize far into your future and see not only what you want now, but also where you want to end up. See, the purpose for the money with Jay-Z, like I told you, he was saying early in his career, we want to create a comfortable position for our families, or at least he was speaking for himself. I want to create a comfortable position so that when I have kids, and this is before he even had children or family, that they're inheriting my business, and then their kids can inherit that business, and their kids can inherit. So we're creating generational wealth. He was saying you often don't see black people inheriting their parents' businesses, or they're building generational wealth in the families. You don't see that. So we want to do that. We want to start this cycle. It wasn't breaking the cycle. He wanted to start a cycle of having his kids be able to take something that he built and they can eat off it, and then the next generation eats off it, and it just continues to grow. So he knew what his outcome was. He wanted the money so he could do that. See, the money wasn't just so I could say I got money, so I can brag about it, so I can rap about it, so I can have big cars and take pictures with them, or have a big house and say it in my song, or show it off to people, or throw money around the strip club. Maybe he did all of those things, but the outcome, the ends that he wanted to achieve was way bigger than just getting the money itself. So you got to know not only what it is you're looking to achieve, but what's the purpose of that achievement? How does it lead to a bigger achievement? How does it lead to a bigger achievement? And how will you measure when you're getting there? Point number 3. Today's topic is the means to the ends, not getting so caught up in the means that we forget what the ends are, or that we never even ask ourselves what the ends are. And I don't care how long you've been at whatever you're doing, you can ask yourself right now, all right, what are my means and what is the end? How do I know when I've gotten there, and how do I know when to stop? Point number 3, thinking this way. Even the most menial job, the weakest, most inopportune situation, the thing that you least want to be involved in, whatever that happens to be, the most dead-end position that you could be in life right now. Maybe you feel like you're in one right now. It can be made to be part of your long-term plan to reach the ends. You can make it part of your long-term plan to get there. I remember in the year after I got out of college, that same year that I graduated from college, I would sit in the mall because I had my first job was at Foot Locker. My first job that I actually worked at was at Foot Locker in this mall called Granite Run Mall, which is outside of Chester, Pennsylvania. The mall actually doesn't even exist as it did back then anymore. I heard that my father was telling me that they tore it down so they could build like a new shopping center or whatever, because the mall had fallen to pieces. But I was an assistant manager when I first got the job, but I was just training to be a manager because I didn't know the Foot Locker business. So the head manager was this guy named Keith, and another manager was named, I forget his name, I think his name was Jay. But anyway, they were the ones who had the actual keys to the building. And if you ever been in a mall before it opens or right when it's closing, you'll see that each store pulls down a gate, right? So you can't get inside the store. So the gate would be locked, and I didn't have a key, even though I was training to be a manager because I was brand new. I didn't know the store well enough. So I had to sit and wait for Keith or Jay to show up with the key. And both of them had cars. And when I first got this job, I didn't even have a car. So I used to catch the bus and the train and then another bus just to get to Granite Run Mall. And I would always get there like 30 minutes before I had to be there on shift based on the bus schedule. And I remember just sitting in that mall watching old people in sweatsuits walk around for their exercise in the mornings. That's what old people do in towns like that. They walk around the mall for exercise before it opens. And I would just be sitting there just envisioning, where am I going to go? How is working at this job going to help me get there? Like, what is the next step that I'm going to take? How am I going to get into basketball? Because that's the thing that I wanted to do. Where's my life going to be 5 years from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now? It's not quite 15 yet, it's 14 years since then. But even when you're in a situation that seems kind of going nowhere, I mean, at that time I was working at Foot Locker. I didn't have an exact plan on how I was going to get into basketball or build a business. Or listen, 2004, there was no YouTube. There was podcasting, but it wasn't really a big thing. There was no social media. We weren't even using that phrase. You couldn't just put yourself out there on the internet and really get known at that time. The internet was there, but it wasn't as big as it is right now. It wasn't ubiquitous. Everybody wasn't using it. It wasn't something that we immediately ran to every opportunity we got back then at that time. So I didn't know all of this that I'm doing now and that I am now was going to happen. But in my mind, I was envisioning, I knew it was bigger than this. I knew the job that I had, I'm only working here until I can move on to the next step. Whatever that next step is going to be, it was going to be something involving playing ball. I worked me a little job until I can get my basketball opportunity, go to an exposure camp, do my thing at that exposure camp, get an agent, have that agent get me a team, get on a team, and never had to go back to a situation like this. Didn't work out quite like that, but it pretty much did work out. I was already thinking, again, I'm using the means in order to get to the ends. I crafted a story in my mind that this is just part of the story that I'm going to tell later when it all works out. That there's going to be a day that I can tell people, man, my first job out of college, I was working at Foot Locker, sitting in a mall, watching old people take a walk, and I was envisioning in my mind how I was going to get to the next step and start to do what I really wanted to do in my life. I knew it was going to just be part of the story. And it's only once you actually achieve what you set out to achieve that your story matters. Nobody wants to hear your story until you've actually done something. You know, a lot of people want to tell me about their story. They haven't achieved anything. Nobody wants to hear your story. Let's keep things where they need to be. Here on the Work on Your Game podcast, you know I'm going to give it to you real. Listen, you got a story that you think would be interesting, you think people want to hear. You know, people come to me and say, Dre, you know, I got a story that's kind of similar to yours. The thing is, nobody wants to hear your story because you haven't achieved anything yet. Once you achieve something, people want to hear the story. If you haven't achieved anything, your story is not inspiring because they're like, okay, like, yeah, you had this setback, and then what? You didn't achieve anything? Nobody cares about that story. It's not interesting enough. Great stories have a happy ending, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know that? All great stories have a happy ending. Just look up any Disney movie, all right? Bambi, Snow White, Cinderella, Pinocchio, any Mickey Mouse movies, Toy Story. All great stories have a happy ending at the end. If there's no happy ending, Jerry Maguire, I don't watch too many movies, but I'll go down, Dirty Shame, Ocean's 11. All great movies, all great stories have some kind of happy ending. So if you are in the midst of the means right now, you're in the midst of that means. Like, I'm doing this work, I'm grinding, I'm hustling, I'm trying to get to this position, I'm in this situation, I'm doing this thing, I'm doing that thing. Listen, you got to make sure you achieve the end, because if you don't achieve the end, then nobody will ever care about the means. You got to get to that happy ending, whatever it's going to be for you. Let's recap today's topic, the means to the ends. Point number one. I thought of this while reading the article about Kylie Jenner and the Kardashian clan of ladies, how they were able to translate the means, how they started out with, they were getting a lot of ridicule and a lot of negative press from people, but they turned it into the ends. We're going to build this into a business. Seemingly, they've kind of done it in a way that people didn't even notice, but now everybody's looking up like, damn, they really did make a business out of this. Number two, this is why goals need to be tied to other goals. You want to achieve one thing, but why? What is that thing going to do? What is that thing going to do? And how do you know when you got into the end? How do you know when you've achieved the ending? And number three, thinking this way, even the most menial dead-end situation can be tied into your long-term plans. Have a vision for yourself. Craft a vision in your mind, a story in your mind, how you're going to get to the ends, which will make the means worth it and maybe make the means something that somebody, anybody, anywhere will want to hear about one day. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.